Okay. So make sure you have some water if anybody needs water. You know, it's good to have just in case.
Hear that squeaking?
I do. I wonder what that's from.
Is it mine?
Let's see. I'll mute myself so we can make sure.
Yeah, I just unplugged my phone and put it further away so that it wouldn't disturb anything. I hope that didn't start something.
All right, Facebook has asked me for the name of the show. I'll put that in.
Right. Well, your cat looks a lot like one of my cats, Shayna, the one who's on the mantle right now. Looks like Rainbow.
She's a bobtail. She's hilarious when she runs, because she doesn't run, she hops. I didn't know that was just a bobtail thing. And this is the other one.
And what are each of their names?
This is Cashew, and then Latte.
Oh, okay. Right. That's right. Yeah, there is some squeaking thing going on.
Probably mine. It's probably this microphone.
Yeah, that stopped it. Whatever you did. By the way, I hear crickets all day long, so it's hard for me to tell. I'm going to get my hearing checked tomorrow.
This book is ready if you're ready.
Okay, you all are ready?
Yes.
Okay, so here we go.
Okay, you got the timer set to 59?
Yep.
Okay, flip the silver switch that turns the timer on.
Right, I did, and
The light is on?
yep, it is.
Okay, put the clapper in front of your face, and you hit the clapper, you want there.
Right. Welcome to Talking Peace with the Western New York Peace Center, being recorded here at Think Twice Radio in the home of the future. Thanks to our friend and producer, Richard Wicca. Thanks, Richard. And thank you to our friends at WBNY, Buffalo's original alternative radio station. That is 91.3 FM, coming out of Buffalo State, SUNY Buff State. We appreciate them so much. And also, we, in thankfulness, it reminds me to give thanks to Mother Earth, to first recognize that we are, most of us, on stolen Haudenosaunee land, especially Seneca land, and that we will start things off as they do by remembering Mother Earth and being thankful, recognizing and appreciating Mother Earth and all the creatures, the swimming and four-leggeds, the flying creatures, and all the wonderful plants, the medicines, the food, and the wonderful trees that make life possible in this creation, and that we should remember to live as originally constructed. What?
Facebook, they just had a glitch. Okay.
Oh.
Reset the timer. We'll start the show again.
Okay.
I'll bypass it.
Okay, so. Okay.
Are you ready?
Yep.
Put the clapper in front of your face.
Yep.
Put the clapper, you're on the air.
Welcome to Talking Peace with the Western New York Peace Center, being recorded here at Think Twice Radio in the home of the future, also the home of our friend and producer, Richard Wicca. Thanks, Richard. Thank you, too, to our friends at Buff State, WBNY, Buffalo's original alternative radio station, which is 91.3 FM. Thank you, SUNY Buff State. And also, we want to remember, as we're giving thanks, we remember that we're on stolen Haudenosaunee land, most of us on Seneca land, and that we can remember and think of our Indigenous brothers and sisters and all of their wisdom, which includes starting off by recognizing the people who've made this possible, Mother Earth, all of the creatures, the swimming four-leggeds and the flying creatures, and all of the wonderful plants, the medicines, and the food plants that nourish us, and the trees that give us the wonderful air that we breathe, really, and all the different elements that allow this wonderful and beautiful creation, and that we should live as originally instructed so that life can continue in this creation. So thank you for all of that. And when I will say that, I would say Nyahweh, which is that Thanksgiving, and then you all say no.
No.
No, thank you. So now we also have some very special guests, and I just couldn't be more thrilled that we have our Buffalo's Poet Laureate here to help us celebrate and kick off Poetry Month. So April is Poetry Month, and we have Jillian Hanesworth with us to usher it in. So Jillian, welcome. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, we're always grateful to have you, friend of the show. Oh, it's always a treat to have you on the show. And I want to just recognize the wonderful work that you're doing also at Open Buffalo with the Emerging Leaders Program, and just all the wonderful work you're doing of all kinds out in our community. That well, we will talk some more about that. And I just want to
we'll get to that.
Yes, we will. I'm thinking about books, bookcases, lots of other things. And very thrilled, too, to have Shayna Merchant joining us. Hi, Shayna.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Oh, please. Thanks for coming on. So as part of it, well, actually, when we were just doing a thing with the Western New York Peace Center, Women of the Western New York Peace Center, Shayna is our office manager. And so that keeps her very busy. Plus, she's with us when we're doing Peace Jam at the Meriwether Library every Thursday for children and youth 8 and up. So that's always fun. And it is fun. So every Thursday, people are welcome to come there for that. So thanks for joining us, Shayna.
Thanks for having me.
And so what we often like to do is start off with the values piece, just to help us ground ourselves, really, which, of course, the Gnono does that too. But the values is a little more like, what do you think of when you think about poetry? What are the values that you want to uphold in this conversation about poetry? And I would say, of all people, so Jillian, I'll do the Haudenosaunee way of going counterclockwise. So we'll start with you, Jillian, if you would.
Okay, what do I value? Honesty and authenticity.
Wow.
And just the willingness to use a gift that was given to you for the benefit of other people. Well, I think that's what I'll go with.
those are some great values. Actually, I'm going to say, I was just talking maybe an hour ago with somebody about the importance of authenticity and honesty. We were just talking about that. And certainly it is. And that's one of the things about poetry, too. That voice, and so as you said, and back to gifts that we're given, certainly that's one. That's why we're, one of your many gifts that we're very grateful for. And Shayna, what would you, in thinking about this topic or this conversation, what are some values that you want to remind us of?
I think for myself, as it's interesting as I kind of started looking into you, Miss Jillian, and looking at some of your work, and it just reminded me of the power of poetry, period, but also of the spoken word. So what I mostly think of is like self-expression and how important that is to be more in tune with yourself and also making your voice heard. And then with that, letting the community be a part of that experience and learning from that as well.
Yeah.
Beautiful description of what we're just talking and thinking about with Jillian, really, about what she's done right along. So, and what we try to do each maybe in different ways, but that voice, that own voice, and lifting makes me think of Cornel, of course. So I'm going to uphold 3 things I want to say. First, lift every voice and sing, that lifting of every voice. So that's one of the things that, Cornel is always talking about. And actually, Dr. King, Reverend Dr. King, when he gave his Where Do We Go From Here speech that was, 6 months before he was murdered, he recited that second verse of Lift Every Voice and Sing, which is, just about how hard it is, but just, where we're going. So that can come up too. And talk about poetry. That's some beautiful, powerful poetry too.
Yeah, definitely.
So, but I want to also remember to uphold the values. Really, like you said, true. I think of Dr. King. I've been thinking about Dr. King so much. We just had an event. Of course, we've just recognized, the date of when he was assassinated, murdered. Right. That unarmed truth and unconditional love. So truth and love being, again, very tied to spoken word, very tied to everything that you said, very tied to that commitment to the work that is because we love each other. And because of that love, that's why people want to express things, to have that impact. And the truth, right, of course, and to tell the truth.
Yeah. I mean, honesty and authenticity is an expression of love, right?
Right.
Typically,
exactly.
Even if it hurts a little bit, you're honest with somebody because you care.
Right.
You didn't care, you just lied.
Right. No, yeah. It's so important. That's back to that was part of the conversation we were having, and we're having it about politicians, actually. And so It was like, is there any authenticity in politics? So I don't want to go down that road, but that was one of the questions. I'll leave people to ponder that. So we're going to come back to Poetry Month. Poetry Month, and what an exciting time it is. And especially for you. So why don't you tell us, what is poetry like for you? Poetry Month like for you?
Honestly, every month is Poetry Month in my life.
Of course it is.
Yeah, mm-hmm. So I don't think this month specifically has been different.
Right.
But to just see, the general public kind of acknowledge the craft. I think sometimes poetry is one of those things that it's like, maybe they think of it when they're like, oh, we should just get a poet here. I don't think people really understand, or not understand, but always have the time to acknowledge the fact that the art of spoken word comes from the art of storytelling. It comes from our ancestors and their ancestors. And you know what I mean? It's like a passed down skill and gift. So it's really nice to see the general public acknowledge poetry in April. But yeah, every month's Poetry Month now for me.
Right. Of course it is. Well, may every month be Poetry Month for all of us, because yes. I want to say, there's so much in poetry to feed our spirits and to guide us and to just bring us what we need. And there's so much in your poetry. So let us talk a little bit about poetry and activism, and how first of all, how you found your way to your gift, to knowing your gift, and how it's been tied to your activism.
So I think it's important. I always like to make sure I mention that I didn't get into poetry to be a poet.
Right.
My poetry really was a vehicle for my activism. And at the time, I didn't even know that I was an activist. I was just expressing a shared pain that a lot of us felt around the murder of Mike Brown.
Right.
Prior to doing poetry when I was in college, I didn't write in college. I didn't write anything for about 4 years. But I really honed in on leadership skills. I went to Fredonia, which is a predominantly white college. Mm-hmm. And I really had to learn how to be comfortable with who I am, being from where I am. Like, I grew up in Kensington and Bailey. So to go from there to Fredonia was culture shock. I was really challenged to decide who I wanted to be. And to not only say it, but like really stand on it and like be that person. So that's what I learned how to do in college. So all of those skills kind of combined when I started writing again and put those leadership skills and what I learned about myself into one package. That's really what we see now. It's been 5 years now that I've been performing professionally. February 1st made 5 years. So it's just ever evolving. The things that I'm doing now are not things that I thought I would be doing.
Right.
I didn't know that I would even, I didn't know what I was going to be, but I did not think it would be this. But I'm happy.
Well, I want to say you're the best advertisement for Fredonia that I can imagine. And I do want to ask, now I may be mistaken, but was Dr. Rolanda Ward there at the time? Or am I mixed up? I might be.
I don't know.
I thought you didn't know her. Okay, so anyway, but I want to say, God bless Fredonia. It doesn't matter who else was there, that you got, that helped you in, to be who you are is just, a great kudos to them, for the leaders.
I think it forced me to be who I am. It didn't feel like I was being helped at all. It felt like, like I was being put through the ringer constantly. Right. And a lot of Black and brown people who went to Fredonia, who grew up in Buffalo or Rochester, Syracuse, New York City, they were put through the ringer. We had to decide who we wanted to be. But I'm grateful for the totality of the experience, because I don't know if I would be as confident in myself as a woman and as a Black person if I hadn't had that experience.
Well, you certainly live up to it, and bring it all with you everywhere you go so beautifully. So back to activism. So what would you say, Shayna, for how do you see poetry and activism? How do you see that connection?
Well, I do feel that, like I said before, poetry is definitely a way that you can be very self-expressive. And like you said, Miss Jillian, like from your own pain, from your own, you have this shared experience of pain with the rest of a community or people or group of people. And I feel like poetry is a great way to like bring those, especially like I said, spoken poetry is a great way to express that to the audience, and you get it out yourself, and then they can relate to you in turn. But when it comes to activism, your goal is to get people's attention. You want their attention. You want to they want them to be aware. You want them to be like inspired to do something about it. And I think that when someone can see someone on stage or and speaking basically speaking their language, that can be inspiring to them to move forward themselves, whether they choose to do that through poetry or some other talent that they have.
That's beautifully expressed. Absolutely. It really does energize and activate people. So the people who are listening, the people who it, resonates with them or, with the experience, well, whether it's their lived experience or not, it can actually act in that kind of way because it moves us. People will listen and learn in ways, when other things may not reach them.
Yeah. That's so true. I tell this story a lot because it was like a defining story for me. Oh, good. But I had my first poetry show, full show that I planned in 2018 in November. I think it was November 9th to be specific. And the way I was standing, there was no stage. I was just on the floor, but I had two lights angled at me. A blue one and a red one. And the only person or thing I could see was directly in front of me. So I could only see the guy that was sitting directly in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
He happened to be the husband of someone that I worked with.
Uh-huh.
He did not want to be at the poetry show. That's not how he planned on spending his evening.
Uh-huh.
But she told him to come. It was their date night, so that's what she wanted to do.
Right.
So he was a older white man.
Uh-huh. Oh boy.
The entire show, he sat there with his arms crossed, like looking mad at the world.
Really?
And I'm like, okay, this is the only person I can see. And he's mad, and I don't know why. So I had to really try not to let it distract me.
Right.
And I performed right before the intermission of the show. I performed Little Black Boy. And after I performed that poem, the show went on intermission. I went into the area where we were selling like refreshments, and he walked up to me in tears and hugged me and was like, I didn't know.
Right.
He was just like, I didn't know.
Right.
Like, I didn't know. And that's what I get a lot, you know, and not knowing the full scope of people's experiences doesn't absolve you from being a part of a system that oppresses them, right?
Right.
So that's very important to note, because I never want to be like, you know, oh, just listen to these words and all is forgiven.
No.
But it was really good to hear somebody sit there and be like, you know, be open to hearing that perspective and actually receive it. After that, you know, I stayed in touch with them for a while, and a lot of his perspective on what was happening in the world had changed. And it was because of that one poem. And that was the same one poem that got me started in this work. So that's what I remember when I try to kind of think about or surmise like the power of spoken word and like what it can do and the barriers it can break through. Because I saw it happen like right in front of my eyes.
Right. So let me ask you now, one of the things we talked about is we want you to do some reading, you know, do some, you know, spoken word, but to share some of your poems. And I want to hold this up, and we'll come back to this, but wait here. If you can see, The Revolution Will Rhyme, City of Buffalo Poet Laureate Jillian Hanesworth with remarks from Dr. Cornel West. So, of course, that moment, and a great conversation that you had with him. So enriching, so inspiring, just wonderful. So, so if you would share a poem, and I would say of your choice, you know.
Okay.
Yeah. That would be
You want me to do one now, or you want me to
Yeah. Because we want more than one in the course of the time, and it does go moving along.
I'm getting finessed, basically.
Yeah.
Okay. Good to know. That's really good to know. So I guess since I just spoke about Little Black Boy,
I was thinking that would be good.
Yeah.
That's a great one. Yes,
So,
please do that one. Such a great one.
Yeah, so Little Black Boy, it was the poem that got me started. I wrote the first line of that poem while watching CNN after Officer Darren Wilson was not charged with the brutal murder of Michael Brown.
Right.
I sat on that poem for a few months, and then I posted it on Facebook, and that's literally how this has all happened, just from that Facebook post. So I'll do that piece.
Wow.
I wish the little black boy did something wrong. I wish the police yelled freeze, and the little black boy came barreling at him, aiming a gun at ease, actually life-threatening. So when the cops have to fight and the bullets take flight, no one has to hide and no one has to lie, because the little black boy did something wrong this time. I wish the video of the incident leaked on Facebook, and the whole world tuned in to get a better look, and we could all collectively say, yeah, that sucks, but he had it coming all along, because this time the little black boy did something wrong. I wish I could watch it on TV with my nephews. and say, you see what he just did? That's something you should never do. Because it's easier to explain why he's laying dead in the street, bullet wounds still steaming from the lead and the heat, than to say no justice, no peace, or RIP because the little black boy did nothing wrong. And it's easier to explain what's wrong and what's right, what's black and what's white, than the in-between where gray lies. And it's easier to mourn the loss of someone, a mother burying her son, when you can look at her and say, I am so sorry, mama, but this time your little black boy was wrong. Black Lives Matters is not a badge of honor. It's not a hate group. It's a message to our youth. A reminder saying you mean something in a world where if you go 10 miles over the speed limit, they might try to kill you. And I am so tired of saying, put the guns down, little black boys. The right to bear arms doesn't apply to you. And if your jeans are too baggy, or your voice is too loud, or you know your rights, or you live on the good side of town, or you live in the hood, or your job is too good, or your car is too nice, or your skin ain't light, or your money is too long, or your personality is too strong, be careful out there because you might be gone, even if you're a little black boy who did nothing wrong. And in case you haven't noticed, we're still singing that same song. See, we've always been chosen when it was time for the killing, the way you choose a tomato that's ripe for the picking. I thought targets were red. When did they become black? I thought the abuse of power was dead. When did it come back? And maybe it never left, but when did it get this bad? When did the allure of equality make us wave the white flag? We've always protested the killings. We marched when Dr. King had a dream. He preached a message of freedom, and we believed everything. We looked to the hills with hope of free and better days, but we didn't notice that we were still targets, just targets in different ways. They didn't kill us as much, but we were still their slaves. And they used systematic oppression instead of whips and chains. They compared us to each other like some were better, not the same. Like we weren't all stuffed onto the same boats, like we didn't get here the same way. They locked us in cells and they threw the keys away. They left us broken in the hood. They didn't even need a grave. They sent us to the schools that were falling apart. When we finally found our leaders, they stabbed us in the heart. They sicked their dogs on us and they hung us from trees. They made it very clear that we were never really free. You see, we drank from different fountains. Success with different tools. We used the back door. We followed different rules. We were taught that we were different, and that different ain't right. That's why to this day, speaking proper is speaking white. But as our standards rose, their fears grew. They were stunned when we sat at that counter singing, "We shall not be moved." And they were afraid when Rosa Parks sat at the front of the bus. And when a white man wanted her seat, she refused to get up. They panicked when Malcolm X gathered a group of his brothers to police the police and make life safer for each other. And when Angela Davis proclaimed, "We ain't scared no more," we gave the ones who wanted us scared a new goal to reach for. They realized they couldn't kill our spirits. They couldn't kill our souls. They couldn't kill our minds, and they couldn't kill our hope. So they targeted our black boys who did nothing wrong, and they killed them for wearing hoodies and playing with toy guns. They choked them for selling Lucy's, ignored the "I can't breathes," and they didn't get in trouble. They seem to walk away scot-free, but we can't let them get away with anything. So while they target us as individuals, we have to build our team. We have to show our youth that they are worth something and teach them to aspire for more than a pair of Jordans and some bling. When you know better, you do better. So allow me to preach. There is nothing we can't do. There is no goal beyond our reach. We are culture creators. They want to be like us, match our style, match our swag, and it's still not dope enough. They will try to keep us down, and they will continue to be mad. So let us be great. Ignore the hate. As a matter of fact, they should target that.
Wow.
Thank you.
That was amazing. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's powerful. Yeah.
Of course, I've read that poem, or I think I might have even heard you say that poem before. But anyway, it's just so beautiful, and it's just so important. And actually, it's a great example of activism in poetry, because not only did it activate you into a whole direction, which is just so strong, so fitting, so right, so beautiful, and so helpful. Because, for your friend's husband, now I'm going to bet the way he votes is different, the way he thinks is different, because you opened his eyes to a whole nother a whole nother way of looking at things. So that's going to shift everything, and also including what does he listen to and look at. So that continues people, because we don't, when we start to choose, you know, when our perspective changes, then what we want to do changes, right?
Yeah.
So when we think about poetry, the other thing we were going to talk about is poetry and healing, too. Let's think about that. Is where and how does poetry relate to healing? So, Jillian, what would you say?
Well, I think there's so many ways. I think the act of writing in and of itself is therapeutic.
Sure.
Right. Mm-hmm. Sometimes people write letters to people that upset them with no intentions of ever sending the letter. They just need to get it on paper.
Right.
So there's power in that.
Right.
But I also think there's a few different things, and I try to make sure that I'm doing this when I write. Mm-hmm. I think validation can be healing. Sometimes to hear somebody else say, yeah, this is happening and it's not normal, and we don't have to normalize it, and this is bad. There's healing in hearing somebody really share your experience and share your perspective. So I think that's one way. I think it gives us a way to be honest. And honesty is healing. And I think it offers healing because it offers healing by allowing us to express our thoughts and feelings in a way that doesn't cause us to be guarded. I think a lot of times when people hear like, oh, we're going to have a poet, they're like, oh, cute. Okay, nice. It's going to rhyme. It's going to be nice. It's going to be a vibe, you know? And then a poet like me gets up, right? Mm-hmm. And not only am I speaking truth to power, but typically there's some sort of call to action, sort of call to unite in the poetry. So it's like when they're getting ready for me, they let their guard down because they think they're going to hear like some Cat in the Hat, you know, or love type of poetry. Right. And it's my work is love poetry.
Yes,
it's a different type of love. Mm-hmm. So I think it allows people to make space to be healed because they let their guard down a little bit when they're about to hear it, and even while they're hearing it. So yeah, I think poetry is healing in so many different ways. So many different ways. For me, I feel like as an artist, as a creative, and a lot of creatives probably can relate to this. It's almost like you carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. Mm-hmm. And you're constantly, it's like your brain never stops looking for a way to make it make sense. Mm-hmm. And to make it make sense in a way that's digestible for you. So for me, it's like the way I make sense of what's happening is through the art of poetry. Mm-hmm. So that is healing for me, because if I didn't have that outlet, I'd probably I don't even see how I could sustain as a leader, as an activist, as a community member. Like, I don't know how I would be able to sustain myself because I still feel like I was carrying the weight of the world. I just wouldn't have a way to put it down. So, yeah. Right.
No, those are all very powerful ways. And from the different perspectives. What about you, Shayna? Do you have an experience of poetry and healing, or, you know, what does that make you think of?
Wow, yeah, just hearing what you said, Miss Jillian, I relate to it a lot. I feel that, and that's the thing. Like, you know, as I've been, and I want to thank you again, Miss Vicky, for inviting me on the show because I love poetry, but it's like I forgot.
Yeah.
And you know, this is kind of bringing it back to my remembrance. And I know I love to write, and I love to write, but I just never really figured out how to really integrate it into my life. And I know that journaling is one of those ways that, like you said, it's, you know, that kind of expression in and of itself has a healing process, and that's what I use it for. When it's like I feel like everything is just weighing down on me, and I just need to get it out of my head at least and get it on paper somewhere. And that's definitely a very healing process for me. But as you were speaking, that idea of honesty, it makes me think of just truth in general and how that is healing. Kind of like you said, this is a work of love,
right?
And it is like the truth is, you're sharing the truth, and it can be hurtful and it can be uncomfortable. But this is what love can look like. Like, I'm going to tell you the truth, and even if it's going to be uncomfortable, that can bring healing to you if you can accept it. And the other part of that is, of course, understanding. And I feel like that's one of the biggest things that I think one of the biggest challenges that we may see when it comes to these racial divides or divides in general. We generally don't take the time to understand the other side, understand their perspective, understand what they've been through, understand their experience, and then vice versa. So I think poetry is an excellent way to do that, to whoever is speaking, to say, this is what I've been through, this is what I have seen, this is what I think and believe about the situation. And whether you're right or wrong, that's your expression. And, I think that should be respected, at least across the board. And the hope is that people can come to an understanding of what you're trying to express. And then from there, they can let you know, okay, I heard you, I respect that. This is what I think, and this is how I see it. And from there, I think that's where we can start bridging the gaps here. But yeah, I think that process altogether can create healing within individuals and create healing within a community.
So true. So it makes me think, I used to write poetry, and I'll never forget writing a poem about my friend passed away from cancer at the age of 25. I was 24. She was 25. And I still remember that poem I wrote. And I think that's why I mention it, because, not that, first of all, you do have a very special talent, and it is a glory, and it is such a boon to everyone who hears and reads and hears the power of your words. And yet also poetry, and I think you would say too, that people can write and people can do, we've done so many. I talk about the poetry I wrote as a young person, or we've done exercises with kids writing poetry as a group, or getting people just to even set those things down, because that power of expressing your feelings, it just and it being heard, or it being there, right there physically, when you see it, that it's such a tool. Or for building beloved community. If you create a piece of art together, and that's whether it's poetry or it's a mural or it's whatever, that love, and that everyone putting their own love and truth and pain in it. Because that love is very related to pain, right? As you were saying, as is so clear in your poetry. My God, that's I think what brought me so much to tears is the amount. When we hear it, and when we, it's such a powerful thing. Such a powerful thing.
Thank you. But yeah, just like you said, when you wrote a poem after losing a friend. It gives you a way to digest what's happening.
Right.
Because there's just no way sometimes to make sense of it. And I think I think all mediums of art does that.
Yes.
It offers a space. But I think beyond that, one of the reasons that I do poetry workshops, because doing workshops is not like my top favorite thing to do. But I think it creates a space, like intentionally creates a space for people to be able to process and digest, but also to be able to share. I just did workshops. I don't even know. This last year has just been wild, but ECHO, it was a conference, a diversity, equity, and inclusion conference for all of the private schools. And there was probably 100 students there, and I did a poetry workshop. And normally, when high schoolers come to a poetry workshop, there's always some that are like, okay, cool, I'm a poet, I write poetry, or some are like,
Sure.
I'm a rapper.
Sure.
Which, we know rap came from poetry.
Right.
So I always have some excitement. But there's also a lot of students, teenagers, that are like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah, of
I'm
course.
not about to sit here and
Some
write
will
and
be.
rhyme. Yeah. But once they start to get into it, it's almost like they've been waiting for a space to be able to express this. They've been waiting for a way that's safe for them to be able to express it with each other. Because these students are now talking about things in their writing that they wouldn't talk about with these same, people that are in their class or that they eat lunch with,
Right.
So I think that intention, creating that space for people to not only say what they need to say, but be heard, and be able to process their own writing, but in the writing of their peers, that's so powerful to me. And that's literally why I do workshops.
So
that didn't exist, I would not do it.
So how do you, and I'm sure that it does exist because of all the reasons that we're saying is that wellspring in people, and not that it will all be, everyone's going to be a poet laureate or something, but that healing voice, that healing of giving voice, of lifting up your voice of your experience. So what are some of the things that you do to help people to set the stage in a workshop like that?
So especially when I'm with high schoolers, middle schoolers,
right.
even college students,
Right.
Younger, I always start with talking about being responsible with words.
Ooh, beautiful.
And I do this activity where I make them write a word down. I group them up so they become a little community. And I make them write down one word that identifies their community on a piece of construction paper. And then I pass out toothpaste and I make them squeeze the tube and outline the word. And then I challenge them to put the toothpaste back in the tube. It's impossible.
Right.
You can't put the toothpaste back.
No,
so
right.
that's when I talk about the importance of being responsible with how we use our words. Because once it's out there, you can't take it back. And when you're writing for other people, you have to write with those people in mind. You can't just write for yourself and then stand up and say it in front of a lot of people. Right. You can, but not for the purposes that I write.
Right.
So,
not responsibly. Not responsibly, right? That's what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Not when you're writing for justice, and to empower people.
Right.
So I always start off with that, and then I do some activities where I talk about emotion. I'll write a bunch of different emotions down on a piece of paper, put it in a paper bag, shake it up, and have them pick an emotion and tell of the most monotonous, boring story of their day. Like, I missed the bus, so I had to wake my mom up. She drove me to school. Something really simple like that, but only expressing that one emotion. And we talk about how our emotions can transfer onto people. So if I'm writing something that's sad, if I don't want to leave people feeling sad, the ending cannot be sad. Because wherever I am when I'm writing, when I'm performing, is where I'm bringing people when they listen. So we talk about that. That typically will loosen everyone up. Also, my personality, I work with teenagers a lot. So, just me making fun of them. And, one kid stood up with a sweater vest and I'm like, oh, we got the pastor, things like that. Loosen them up that way.
Right.
And eventually they'll all write. If I can just get one student to agree to share, then I will get more.
Right.
I just got to get the one that's willing to break the ice. And then sometimes I would challenge them, like, if I have a group that doesn't want to share, then I'll be like, okay, you're the judge now. I'm gonna perform, and if their performances are better than mine, then I'll do this, something like that. I always make myself lose. But
wow.
Yeah, different things like that, just to get them into it. They typically open up after a while.
Of course they do. Of course they do, because you are a connector. You are somebody who knows how to connect with people. And that's part of how your poetry is. That was the other thing I was saying, is it's such a way of connecting with people because of the power of those words. when you share them. So I want to talk a little bit about your book too, and whether, where people can get it, right?
Yeah,
Where can they can get it on Amazon, yes?
Yeah, right now
other
only
ways?
on Amazon.
Right now only on Amazon.
Yeah, all of the stores are sold out. It's so crazy because people have started to book me for events and bulk order books. So I'll have 200 books. And then somebody would be like, can I get 150? So I'm having a hard time restocking all the stores because of these bulk purchases, but I'm working on it. People have been yelling at me for months over it. I promise I'm working on it.
Your poems are so powerful here. And also I want to say that conversation with Dr. West, which I'm not sure if it's still, I don't think it's still on our website. We had the whole transcript of that whole evening on the website for the longest time. And we can still, get it back up there. But anyway, having it in here, and this is just powerful, beautiful after, strong, just so amazing. So would you do another poem for us? Can we ask for that? Is that possible?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think now would be good. Because I don't want us to run out of time, and we're not stopping. Because radio shows are sort of driven time-oriented things. So
yeah. I'll do a shorter one. This is one of my favorite pieces right now. Mm-hmm. And I try to write sometimes specifically to Black women or specifically to Black men. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we need a collective message. Sometimes we need an individual message.
Sure.
So this is called That Won't Change. It's really short, but I wrote it specifically to Black men. So yeah, I'll do that one. Black man, you need some space. You got a whole lot to prove. And as your counterpart, I promise I'm gonna make them make some room. I see your brain, I see your power. You can bet they see it too. They try to blind you with hate so you can't see the great in you, but I still see it. They rob you of your magic, but they know they will never be it. They mine you like gold and they mad they can never keep it. Snatch the air right out your soul. But I am here to help you breathe it. Because if you need it, then I need it. That won't change. You go to war, I go to war. This has never been a game. We built this country on our back, so that means it's ours to claim, and we want it all. Don't let them take your crown, Black man. You better stand tall. You're equipped with superpowers, man. They'll never make you fall. And if they try, just know that I am here to dust you off, and know that will never change.
Wow.
That's awesome. I really like that.
Oh, Jillian. Well, so I think we might still have time for another poem, too. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
I just wanted to know, where is the best place to find some of your recorded videos? I went to your website and saw 6, and I was like, this isn't all of them, obviously. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, there's probably so many that I could just absorb and take in. So I just wanted to know, for myself and for the audience, where is the best place to find more of your work?
Yeah, so I have a YouTube page. It's a pretty weak YouTube page. I'm hiring an intern over the summer. I will be hiring the first person that I've ever hired. I'll have an intern, and I'll also have an assistant towards the end of the summer. So I'll have so much help now. But I do have a YouTube page. It's Jillian Hanesworth. Thank you. And then also my Instagram is poet_Jillian_Hanesworth. And I try to share videos. I probably share the most on Instagram, but they're shorter, one clip, shorter pieces. I also will be shooting some professional videos over the summer. I got to meet a couple filmmakers in the past couple of months, so I'm excited to do that. And I will also be filming a really short documentary. I feel like I'm in this transition period right now where my poetry career has become something that I never even imagined it could. And to be honest, that a lot of people didn't think that I could do this.
Well, you're doing it, and I'm going to tell you, I knew you could do it now the first time, I think I had just heard you at Open Buffalo. I'm not sure
Yeah.
about that, but you asked, and that was when you said, you'd like to share a poem on the Women's March.
Yeah.
And that was, which by the way, we were just working on it today. We're planning this year's Women's March is going to be during Victorious Women's Month, which is May. So that was Deidre's
Nice.
very good idea, because we're going to do it May 15th, not in the middle of 65-mile-an-hour gale force winds or any kind of things like that.
Yeah. Because doing a poem in the middle of the winter when it's windy is no joke.
No, it was
My
no
face
joke.
gets stiff, and I feel like I cannot speak.
No, it was no joke, but you did it. You did it, and you just bring so much. So I mean, I'm not, trying to make too many plans, except that I'll say it's May 15th, and it'll be in Broderick Park, and it will really be great. It really will be great, because we're going to honor, first of all, all of that the passages that happened there, and Broderick Park, and it's for healing, victory, and solidarity for women and for us all. So that's the basic idea. So it'll be Sunday from 1 to 3 on Sunday, May 15th. But anyway.
Yeah, you know how to find me.
I do. I don't want to ask for you too much. Well, first of all, you're so gracious coming on Talking Peace as many times as you have. And we've been lucky enough to have you sometimes we're doing camp again this year. Or, if you could do a poetry workshop for Camp Peace Prince. We have Peace Jam going on right now, too. But anyway, I know your days are full and busy, and, we're just grateful. We're just grateful to read your poems and hear and see you once in a while and hear you. Really.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's a dream. It really is. It's a dream. It's a dream that I wasn't bold enough to actually dream for a really long time. And as soon as I gave myself permission to accept that this is what I want, it just happened. But again, I've been doing this for 5 years. So for my artists that might be watching this, just stay diligent,
right?
Do the work, put your head down and do the work. Stay consistent, stay disciplined.
Right.
I started going to the gym regularly in 2018, solely for the purpose of disciplining myself.
Right.
That was it. Just to discipline myself. So start to practice discipline in other ways other than your art, because you have to be a disciplined person, not just a disciplined artist. So yeah, it's happening now. So it's whether I'm ready or not, I just gotta do it.
Oh, you are doing it. No, there's no question that you're doing it, and it's just so great to see you doing it, and and to really enjoy those rich fruits of your labor and all the community building that you're doing. Make a mention of your the books too, and the bookcases.
Yeah.
Or little libraries.
So that project is called Buffalo Books.
Mm-hmm.
So the goal is to place small library boxes around historically excluded neighborhoods.
Right.
So right now I'm focusing on just the East Side in general. I will have 25 little libraries placed around the East Side by the end of the summer. Next, I'm going to be focusing on Riverside and Black Rock. So that'll be the next community I focus on. Beyond putting these libraries around, I'm purchasing books from local authors. So we're putting money directly into the pockets of local authors, and we're making sure that the books that go into these libraries are, they really represent us, our culture, its distribution for writers. It's really hard as an author, especially when you self-publish, to get your work out. It's really hard.
Well, people are wanting this here, so you want to put that in too. And
that's not my first book. So my first poetry book for the culture, so far, The Revolution Will Rhyme has already sold twice as much as For the Culture, and that came out in 2017.
Oh,
So,
okay. Well, that
like, it's tough. It's tough, especially when you're new. So these libraries are also, it's giving us a distribution stream
Sure.
that we fully control within the city. So, yeah, that you can also
Great.
find more information about Buffalo Books on my website. It's www.jillthepoet.com. You can make a donation. If you're an author and you want me to buy books from you, there's an author form on my website. So please fill that out. I'm going to start bulk purchasing books from local authors in the next month or so, just working on storage. So, yeah, I'm ready when you guys are.
So now we have one, and as we're running out of time, Brian Mucha just asked reading any poems. Well, so I want to tell you, Brian, that she's already done 2 poems for us, but I think we can ask for one more short one as long as we've got 5 minutes left.
Okay,
So
yeah.
if you could do another one, we'd love it.
Sure. Let's see. It's like all the poems kind of just left my brain.
Right. Well, because I put too many things in there.
Okay.
Okay.
I know you gave me a time limit. All right. I'll do Who's the Boss, which is my women's history poem. Every month is Women's History Month. Our work is not limited to 1 month, just like every month is Black History Month. So I'm going to do that. This is called Who's the Boss. You thought you made the sunrise. You thought you were the one. I had to bring you down a size, so I became the sun. Beamed on you heavy, had you sweating like a loaded gun. Reminder, I don't get told what to do by anyone. Don't need a savior, never been a damsel in distress. I am the dragon, I spit fire, only ashes left. I'm not a princess in a tower waiting, passing time. I am the monster you must slay before you take what's mine. I walk with pride because I have powers I have yet to learn. Not thought of as the head, but I can influence the head to turn. Shielded with discernment that allows me to connect the dots. And too humble to broadcast that I am she who calls the shots. I listen with my soul, so I hear words that have not been spoken. Vision so clear that I see through doors that have not been opened or open yet. I walk by faith, believing what I cannot see. With melanin of magic, life wreaks havoc, yet my soul is free. I push the culture forward, raising generations like my child. And candy cocoa butter is what you think of when you see me smile. I carry the political weight, never too much on my plate. Can't starve on mediocrity, too busy getting full on great and greatness. That seeps out my pores. I'll always win, no need for scores, methodic and intentional. If you need help, just ask the girls. See, girls do more than run the world. We're the axis on which it turns, the moon that makes the waters rise, the sun that causes land to burn. We hold down every fort, even the ones we did not build. We reach deep down inside ourselves, finding love so pure and real, a love that makes all sorrows heal and replaces them with triumph. And we conquer every jungle with more reverence than a lion. See, each great man in history had a woman right beside him, orchestrating social change, no need to get behind him. And if she did, her back was to his, so nobody could slight him. And we never miss a beat. Don't need the blueprints when you write them. We speak up for everyone, even those who won't speak up for us. And we'll fight, throwing left and right until they've had enough. We can't be broken. Some don't get that, and they keep on trying us. Not realizing every blow just makes us much more tough. We edify each other like only women can, and we're quick to get to work. We're not afraid of dirty hands. We are everything, and no, we don't always see. But a lion doesn't need a mirror to just know how to be. It is ingrained in us. The missing link God took time to create. And we'll never face a challenge that we can't annihilate. See, in society, we may be the ones they like to cross, but we'll handle that like everything else. So tell me, who's the boss?
Ah! You are.
That's great.
Wow. Oh, boy. Oh, wow. Oh, Jillian. Well, I want to say it is such a thrill having you on the show, hearing you anytime, reading your work, or just knowing you're our Buffalo Poet Laureate. Wow. And so, I'm going to
each for having me.
If you have a final word, either one of you, we're just about at the end. Shayna, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I just want to say how grateful I am to be on the show with you, Ms. Vicky and Ms. Jillian. I've feel so inspired. You're an amazing woman, and I'm just like, ooh, I want to take a workshop.
She is, yes. We want to have, see, I didn't even know you're doing workshops in that way, although God knows I should know it, and I do know it because we've had you with the kids, you know, certainly.
Yeah.
So there's all kinds of things we can do from there. I just can't tell you how grateful I am to both of you for coming on, for all the work, all the consistency, all the discipline, the inspiration, education, and just the power and the truth and love. The truth and love. So I want to say this is Talking Peace, and together we've been talking peace in truth and love. Thank you so very much. Wonderful, wonderful. It was great, and really, that was a fantastic show.
Thank you.
Really, and you did bring me to tears. I don't want to count how many times. But anyway. And I'm sorry that you're just not in here so we can all have a big hug.
Yeah, I'm glad that I decided to come home, because it would have taken me another
oh
20,
God,
30
no,
minutes to get to you.
Things work out,
Yeah.
and actually it makes it easier because we're all on Zoom. So if we're all on Zoom or we're on, is another thing. So anyway, so that makes it easy. And Brian, also thank you for. Yes, check out Jillian's site. Say your site again is what?
It's jillthepoet.com.
Jillthepoet.com. Jillian, big hugs and love to you. Shayna.
Thank you.
We'll see you on
nice
Thursday.
to meet you, Shayna.
Likewise, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing, the professional videos, and I'm gonna go find what I can find.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And more to follow. More to follow. We love you. We'll see you. Go have dinner. Go chill out.
Yes.
Treat yourself right. Okay. Thanks.
All right. Have
Jillian.
a good night.
You too.
Take care.
Thanks. Love you. Bye for now. We'll see you on Thursday.
Did you get the clap already?
What?
Did you get the clap?
I did.
Okay.
I did. Yeah. We were just talking. So there.